One Woman's Journey Towards a Comfortable Life. Part 1. The First Home of Our Own. Where we started. You see that house in the corner? That's very like the one that I moved into when I first got married. It looks okay, but you'd be surprised at the list of difficulties that we found there. It had one open fire and one electric heater high up on the bathroom wall. Both sets of grandparents had had a coal fire, but I'd never been allowed to tend it. Suddenly I had a whole new set of skills to learn. The second winter in that house was one of the coldest I've ever known. There was snow on the ground for 2 months, and it was common on the night for the temperatures to go down to -15 and -16. A very cold winter by British standards. If you looked at the wall at the side of the chimney, it was impossible to find one wall at right angles to another. It was a wallpaperer's nightmare. We couldn't get in round the back. Even bags of coal had to be carried through the house to the back garden. When they made a delivery of coal, we soon learned that the best thing to do was to take the light bulb out of the light fitting, unscrew the light fitting, and leave so that when they walked through the hall, they didn't bob down below the light fitting and then bob up too far, hit the ceiling, and leave black marks along the ceiling. Of course, it also meant that we had a lot of dust and dirt to sweep up after when they'd finished as well. And we parked our car on the slope between the pavement and the road after squeezing past more than one lamppost. We had no phone, and in those days there were no mobile phones. So once or twice a week I went to a cold and drafty phone box to ring my parents. That was not an easy time because both my grandfathers were ill during that time. One of them lived a few more years, but one of them died while I was living there. And as if that was not enough, the second bedroom had a sloping ceiling. Doesn't sound bad, but it meant that the wardrobe doors wouldn't open. We could put a wardrobe in there, but the sloping ceiling started so soon that there was just not enough space for the doors to swing open. And guests had to be very wary of hitting their head on the ceiling when they sat up in bed. Seriously, the ceiling was so low that a guest on the far side of the bed couldn't sit up. I could sit in the bath and see the sky through gaps in the side of the ceiling. The people who had put the ceiling in for us didn't know how to fill in the gaps down the side, so they left them. The door into the ceiling had to have a curtain across it because the door was straight but the door frame wasn't. This meant that the door touched the frame in the middle, but there were big gaps top and bottom. The door frame actually went round in a curve. No, it wasn't the only thing that was curved. The kitchen was curved. It was actually shaped like a banana. I've never forgotten the look of the face of the man who came to measure it when the house was put up for sale. He didn't have a clue where to put the tape measure. And then there were other problems that became obvious when the house was put up for sale. That was when we discovered there was no damp-proof course. It was also when we discovered that there was a problem with the planning regulations and there should be another little room between the bathroom and the kitchen. Well, what did we have in this little house? Well, it was mostly second-hand things and hand-me-downs. Someone my husband worked with bought new wardrobes and sold us their old ones. They needed new locks, but when 25 years later a door was broken in an accident, I realised that there was no way that those locks would ever be replaced. A friend's grandma died and their family needed to do something with their furniture, so we helped them out. We had a settee and a chair and even a fridge from that lady. My aunt moved house and gave us some of her leftovers, like a washing machine and a carpet. And my dad bought us a second-hand cooker from work and then came round and fitted it for us. And we had no table till his mum found one in a second-hand shop. This was probably the nicest thing we had and was used for over 25 years. Does this sound familiar? Was this like your first home? Have you ever lived in a home that had so many problems? Was your first home full of second-hand stuff and other people's cast-offs? Have you ever had to start over again like this? This is not the end of the story. There is more. Watch out for part 2.